seismic shift in the 2020 race for the White House. Welcome, Faith Nation. I'm Jenna Bratter.
And I'm Eric Phillips. Super Tuesday delivering a political earthquake to the Democratic primary. And tonight, the aftershocks.
It is now a two-man race between Joe Biden and Bernie Sanders. Today, billionaire Michael Bloomberg suspending his campaign and announcing his support for Biden.
And after a disappointing third-place finish in her home state of Massachusetts, Elizabeth Warren says she is evaluating tonight.
Abigail Robertson joins us fresh off the campaign trail. Abigail, it seems like this shift started when we saw several big names drop out in just the hours leading up to Super Tuesday.
Well, that's right, Jenna. The big boost Biden received from former candidates Amy Klobuchar, Pete Buttigieg, and Beto O'Rourke the night before Super Tuesday proved to pay off. And while Biden swept the South and won 9 out of 15 states, he's still neck and neck with Senator Sanders, who did well in California, where there are 415 delegates. And with the final delegate count still to be determined from Super Tuesday, both men are celebrating big victories.
Tonight, I tell you with absolute confidence, we are going to win the Democratic nomination.
We were told, well, when you got to Super Tuesday, it'd be over. So I'm here to report we are very much alive.
And candidates are now shifting their focus to next Tuesday's contest, where 6 more states will vote.
All right, thank you, Abigail. And we want to bring in our chief political analyst, David Brody. David, Biden is calling himself the comeback kid, and that does certainly seem to be the case.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I remember John McCain called himself the comeback kid in 2007 or 2008. When he went on to win the nomination for the Republicans. This is an all-cap situation. I've never seen anything like this before. He has, in essence, risen. As a matter of fact, the New York Post headline, I love the New York Post, you're right, they have a great Post headline saying, it's alive, he's alive. And you see a hand coming out of the grave, because literally he was in the grave. He had one foot in the grave, for sure. But look, I think ultimately it was a Super Tuesday for Joe Biden, but it's been a super duper Wednesday for him as well, because Mike Bloomberg is not only out, but his wallet is in with Biden, and that's a good thing.
Yeah, and it seems like Biden finally has that pep in his step. This is the Biden, I think, a lot of people have been waiting to see.
Yeah, pep in the step is good. Too much pep, not good. In other words, the gas machine. We got to slow that down. If you're the Biden campaign, look, if he gets too ahead of himself here, he's never been in this position before. I mean, he's been vice president, but when he runs for president, it usually flames out, and it's horrible. And it's like roadkill on the side of the road.
Oh, my.
Not this time. So he's farther along this time than he's ever been. And that means if you're in the campaign, it's danger time. Make sure he doesn't put foot in mouth.
Well, now, Abby, you've been out there on the campaign trail. Do you think that this enthusiasm that we've seen from Biden now doesn't have staying power?
From what I've seen, I believe it does. The Biden I saw in Iowa a month ago was not the Joe Biden in South Carolina Saturday night. He's got his groove back, if you will. And when I talked all day long, we went to Pete Buttigieg rallies, we went to Tom Steyer events. When I talked to those voters and specifically asked them about Bernie Sanders' campaign, many told me that they did not think Bernie Sanders has a chance against Donald Trump. And I do think we are going to see these more moderate candidates that have now dropped out coalesce around Joe Biden. And I wouldn't even assume that all of Warren's supporters are going to go to Sanders, even though they're aligned politically. I think that Biden could even pick up some Warren supporters. When I've been on the campaign trail and been to some of her events, I frequently will hear, I ask people who they have been supporting for the past month, frequently hear people say Warren, Buttigieg, Biden, or some combo of that, but Bernie is not in that. I talked to a pollster in Iowa who told me before Iowa ever voted that what he thinks that Bernie's support has peaked, but the other candidates seem to be gaining and kind of joining each other's camps, but he doesn't think Bernie is going to enjoy that same kind of support. So I think Biden has a very good shot right now.
It's that momentum working on his favor going in right now. Well, what about the Trump campaign? You've been on the campaign trail and been to some Trump rallies as well. Yes. What has that been like?
We were out in Charlotte on Monday morning. Trump had a rally in Charlotte Monday night. The best way I can describe it is SEC on College game day. It is unlike anything I've ever seen in a political rally. We talked to the first person in line. She got there Thursday night. multiple people camped out, and it's just this big kind of camaraderie event. They had cornhole, they had coolers where they were just making it like, you know, drinking all day, having a just time out there, playing games. Everyone's decked out head to toe in, you know, American flag gear, Trump t-shirts, everything. You wouldn't believe just the enthusiasm out there. And it was hours before they were even going to be let into the venue, camping out overnight. So there's a lot of enthusiasm in the Trump campaign right now.
Yeah, hours and even days. Yeah. Well, let's talk about Bernie Sanders a little bit more. David, many of his supporters feel like he's being pushed out by the Democratic establishment.
Yeah, we're not at that point yet, though, right? I mean, so let's wait to the convention and see how it all plays out. Right now, the voters are speaking, and the voters are saying clearly in poll after poll, they say they want a candidate that can beat Trump, and they think it's Biden. Now, they had thought it might have been Buttigieg and Klobuchar, some others. They're gone, so it's Biden. And so the Bernie folks need to hold their horses for a moment. I'm not saying they don't have a beef, but let's see when we get to Wisconsin, when we get to Milwaukee for the convention in July, and see where we are with delegates. Look, Bernie has energy, Biden has pragmatism, and so that's kind of what's playing out right here. But, you know, Bernie always says he's starting a political revolution. Well, ask Ron Paul how that worked out in 2012. Look, you can start a political revolution. That doesn't mean you're going to be able to finish the revolution.
David, if it does go to a contested convention, who's better positioned, Bernie or...
Well, no, I think Biden is better positioned for sure for two reasons. One, on the first ballot, you know, you need a majority, and Bernie or Biden won't get there. So therefore, it goes to a second ballot potentially. And at that point, superdelegates kick in, and superdelegates will be the 500 or so, which are party officials and all of them. They'll go for Biden. So I think Biden will do well. And by the way, if Joe Biden has more delegates than Bernie Sanders going into the nomination, not majority, but more, well, Bernie's already said, I'll support the person with more delegates, because he thought it would be him. But it's not. It's Biden.
But the question is, will his supporters support that person?
Right, we'll have to see.
The Bernie bros. Abby, for you, what are you hearing on the Sanders front?
It's looking a lot like what we saw in 2016 between Hillary Clinton and Senator Sanders, where Senator Sanders voters feel like there's this organized coup amongst the DNC to keep him from getting the nomination. I've talked to Sanders voters who tell me that they're not sure if they can't promise to back whoever the nominee is if they feel like the election is stolen from him again. And when you saw O'Rourke, Klobuchar, Buttigieg all come out the night before Super Tuesday endorse him, there were just a lot of people raising eyebrows at that. So I think we're seeing a repeat kind of that conversation in 2016. That being said, I interviewed Congressman Ro Khanna, the co-chair of Bernie Sanders' campaign, and asked him that question, if he feels like there's this organized effort against Senator Sanders, and he said he did not feel that way. But the question is, will voters believe that, and will they be willing to back the nominee?
Wow. Well, just, you know, organized, but they're all organized because they're organized to make sure Bernie Sanders is defeated, because they don't want to see a socialist at the top of the ticket, because they think he'll lose to Trump.
So where do we go from here?
Where do we go from here? We look to Michigan, 125 delegates next week. That's the big one. And we'll see. Bernie's right now down 10 points to Biden, but Bernie thinks he can win Michigan. We'll see.
All right, we will see. David and Abby, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Well, to coronavirus, there are now more than 120 confirmed cases in the United States.
California confirmed its first coronavirus-related death, bringing the total to 11 people who have died in the U.S. CBN White House correspondent Ben Kennedy joins us with details. Ben, good evening to you.
Well, good evening, Eric and Jenna. Today, the White House announced a change in testing for the coronavirus. States and universities will now be able to administer tests. This allows more people to get checked and faster result times. Plus, a new bipartisan bill could reach the president's desk by the end of the week, which aims to provide $8.3 billion in funding to fight the outbreak. That's triple the amount Trump was requesting. But again, the administration reiterated today the risk to Americans does remain low. President Trump and Vice President Pence met with airline CEOs in the Roosevelt Room at the White House today. It is there they highlighted how the American airlines and other industries are playing a key role in preventing the spread of the disease. Airline executives outlined their 3 levels of cleaning procedures, along with urging passengers follow common sense, like washing hands and not touching their face. The White House is now working with them to determine if new procedures should be put in place to screen and keep people safe.
Is your message that to Americans that it's safe to fly, and can you convince the traveling public?
I think where these people are flying, it's safe to fly, and large portions of the world are very safe to fly. So we don't want to say anything other than that. And we have closed down certain sections of the world, frankly, and they've sort of automatically closed them also. And if they'll understand that, and they understand it better, perhaps, than anybody, yes, it's safe.
And a quick note to passengers, ticket chain fees have been waived for most airlines if people want to alter their travel plans in light of the virus. But by comparison, the flu kills less than 1% of those infected. So right now, the global coronavirus death rate is higher at 3.4%. But again, this number continues to change pretty much each and every day. Eric, Jenna?
Yeah, fluid situation. Ben, the vice president has been heading up the government's response to the coronavirus. I understand tomorrow he'll travel to Washington State, where we've seen most of the deaths.
Yeah, Jenna, we've seen 9 deaths there, but that is right. Pence will travel to Olympia, Washington tomorrow. He is set to meet with Governor Jay Inslee as well as other state and local officials about the coronavirus response. He will also travel to Minnesota, where he will meet with executives from 3M, which produces masks and other medical equipment. Now, Inslee spoke with Vice President Pence earlier this week and asked for more medical equipment to be freed up. That includes masks, gloves, and gowns to protect first responders and healthcare workers. The Washington State Lab is also being enhanced to handle more testing. Right now, around 100 people can be tested for the virus each and every day. Eric, Jenna?
Ben Kennedy for us at the White House tonight. Thank you very much, sir. And stay with us for the latest on the coronavirus as we continue to provide updates right here on the CBN News Channel and at cbnnews.com.
Meanwhile, an American airstrike against Taliban forces. The strike coming just days after U.S. and Taliban officials signed a peace deal, one that would bring U.S. troops stationed in Afghanistan home. It came in response to the militant group attacking Afghan government forces. The attacks by the U.S. today are the first airstrikes since both sides took part in an agreement to reduce violence in Afghanistan that paved the way for the historic deal last week. In a tweet, the spokesman for the U.S. forces in Afghanistan confirming the airstrikes, describing it as a defensive strike to disrupt Taliban attacks.
Still ahead, a major pro-life case before the Supreme Court that could be a game changer for abortion clinics and the safety of women. Stay with us.
Having sex before you marry is a bad idea.
Don't tell me there's no such thing as gun violence.
That just depends on your definition of when life begins.
Watch Dan and Dale tackle trending topics that test your faith on the next Faith Wire, Monday night at 9:30. The Global Lane takes you around the world, providing facts over fiction.
What might rising trade and geopolitical tensions mean for you on the home front?
With over 45 years of experience, award-winning journalist Gary Lane brings you the truth from a global angle.
What about the issue of immigration?
World news analysis you won't see anywhere else.
And it's all right here on the Global Lane.
Watch The Global Lane, Thursday night at 9:30.
Welcome back. The U.S. Supreme Court heard arguments on a key case today involving the important question of how much states can regulate abortion providers. As Paul Strand reports, it was all about whether abortion doctors can be required to have admitting privileges at a local hospital in case of an emergency.
The court was swamped with hundreds of activists for this first major abortion-related case the court's taken up in years.
The big issue here is whether Louisiana can mandate that its abortion doctors have admitting privileges for their patients at a local hospital.
Every other practitioner in Louisiana is held to that same standard, and abortion doctors should be held to that same standard.
Those representing the abortion clinics say that's not really necessary because abortion is such a safe procedure.
Every major medical organization in the United States agrees that these laws do nothing whatsoever for health and safety.
But the other side says that's the main issue because women's safety is on the line.
States should be able to prioritize health and safety over the business interests of the abortion industry.
Abortion shouldn't be given a pass. It should be held to the exact same standards as other outpatient surgical facilities.
This case involved abortion providers like this woman and her clinic. Louisiana argued they are the last people who should be arguing against the safety of women in those clinics.
It's really like the fox guarding the hen house because there's a real conflict of interest.
Should the abortion industry have the right to challenge legitimate, common sense state health and safety regulations when their interests are directly opposed to the women whose health is protected by those statutes?
We haven't seen one woman come forward challenging this law and saying she doesn't want this health and safety protection.
The interesting thing to the casual observer is this case looks like a rerun of the last big abortion case the court heard. In 2016, it ruled that Texas abortion doctors did not have to have admitting privileges to a local hospital.
Why are we back here again just 4 years after the court declared that this very same law was unconstitutional in Texas?
The big difference now, though, is 2 Trump appointees to the high court, which may have, for the first time in decades, given it a pro-life majority. We'll likely find out when the court rules on this case, probably sometime in June. Paul Strand, CBN News, reporting from the Supreme Court.
James Gottry is the vice president of the James Dobson Family Institute, and he was at the Supreme Court today. James, good to have you. Thank you for stopping by.
Thanks for having me, Jenna. Happy to be here.
So you were at a rally outside of the court. You spoke at that. Take us there. What was the mood outside the court today?
It was electric. I mean, there were hundreds of people there, some of whom had been there since the wee hours of the morning, and all of them were there because they believe and recognize that every life matters, not only lives of unborn children, but also the lives of women seeking abortions.
Why is this case so significant for people who are just kind of following loosely and they don't really, see why it might be so important, in your own words?
Right. It's really about 2 things. First of all, whether a state can prioritize women's health over abortion business interests, because that's really what's going on here. It's not women that are opposed to this law. The lawsuit was filed by an abortion clinic and abortion providers. They're not equipped to speak for women. They're not interested in women's health care. They're interested in furthering their business of abortion. So that's really the first thing and part of the second thing, which is should abortion clinics be allowed to speak for women? Should they have the standing to bring these lawsuits that ultimately are hurting women?
Yeah. What could the court's decision ultimately mean for the pro-life movement that's picked up a lot of steam in recent years? What could this court's decision mean for the pro-life movement?
It could give it some continued momentum because, as you said, the pro-life movement is picking up speed. The truth is not going to stay down for long. And you see, the bill that's at issue here, the Louisiana bill, it was championed by an African-American pro-life Democrat state legislator. It was signed into law by a pro-life Democratic governor. So, people are coming over and realizing we need to care about women's health. We can't disregard that. We need to care about the unborn. So this could really just continue to elevate that movement. But either way, I think we're going to continue to see a societal shift moving towards life.
James, why do you think we're seeing the societal shift?
Simply because the truth is self-evident, and as science, continues to show and back up the fact that unborn babies in the womb can feel pain, the personhood of the unborn is impossible to deny. So we're just seeing the science back up what we know to be true from God's word.
Any guess on how the court might rule?
It's tough to say at this point, but we'll certainly be hoping for a good ruling.
Yeah. All right. Well, James Gottry with the James Dobson Family Institute, good to have you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Still ahead, cleaning up after the deadly tornado that hit the Nashville area as residents see what they can salvage and find hope amid the rubble.
On the home front.
Thanks for joining us for CBN's On the Home Front, where we highlight what the men and women of America's military do to defend our country. CBN honors the men and women in our military with an initiative called Helping the Home Front. It partners with churches across the country to meet the needs of their military families, from repairing homes to wiping out medical bills for wounded veterans.
On the Home Front, Tuesday morning at 10:30.
If you want to be an attorney with a passion for serving people and for excellence, Regent University needs to be high on your list.
Regent's award-winning law school doesn't just create lawyers. We create leaders, judges, prosecutors and defense lawyers, civil litigators, and leaders in government.
My focus has been trying to really make sure we have the future leaders we need for the bench and the bar and for society generally.
You'll learn from highly credentialed leaders who are current and former judges, distinguished scholars, and ACLJ counsel.
I'm so glad I chose Regent. The relationships here have been amazing. The faculty have been amazing. Not everybody's called to the same thing when they leave law school, but they're called by a God who has a purpose for their lives, and He is going to use that education to make a difference in the world.
Regent will prepare you to be a purpose-driven, practice-ready lawyer. To start your rewarding law career, complete the online application, submit your transcripts, and take the law school admissions test by July. Apply today.
An elections administrator is praising voters in the Nashville area for getting out to vote on Super Tuesday despite the aftermath of a deadly tornado there.
Residents in part of Nashville are trying to clean up after the twister that killed at least 24 people. Here's CBN's Tom Buring with their story.
Tennessee residents used daylight to take inventory of how their lives had changed. Just hours earlier, shortly after midnight, an ambush of destruction forced them to take cover, sheltering from an EF3 tornado.
You need to come look at the sky. It was bright lime green. I've never seen, it was lime green.
Taylor Nelson and her husband took cover just in time.
We were running into our kitchen to go down our basement steps. As we were running down our basement steps, my ears started popping and our roof took off.
Just down the block, in the same neighborhood, Chris Folsom shared a similar experience.
The sound, that they described, the train, the roaring, and it's coming hard and fast. I ran downstairs into the basement. As soon as I got in the door, the roof ripped off.
The long-track tornado skipped through parts of Nashville, where at least 45 buildings suffered severe damage. Take a look at this, wood javelined through the brick wall. This is Germantown. It is not north of Nashville. This is Germantown in the northern district of downtown.
You heard this groaning force that was shaking the building. You could hear windows bursting all around. It was very obvious that Mother Nature had arrived with a vengeance.
Numerous Nashville-based relief agencies like Hope Force responded quickly to evaluate needs of the displaced.
It's just unbelievable everywhere I look. Whole houses, front walls, gone, and people hurting.
At Donaldson Christian Academy, the elementary school wing was destroyed. School officials gathered to survey structural damage and consider their off-site options to continue classes when students return from their spring break.
Where does your faith tether you now?
Yeah. Well, it's the heart of who we are as a community. And I think really, what we're taught is in difficult times, in adverse times, right? That partly it's our faith that carries us through. And so I want people praying for our students. I want people praying for our faculty and our staff.
Tennessee Governor Bill Lee has declared a state of emergency. And later this week, President Trump plans a visit to the state. For CBN from Nashville, I'm Tom Buring.
Unbelievable devastation, but take a look at this. Folks in one neighborhood recording video of damage at their home come across this Bible safely nestled in a tree. A friend of his tweeting the video and another person commenting, "That's amazing. Proof that God always lets his presence be known."
He surely does, because he is awesome. And as Nashville recovers, musicians and celebrities post messages of prayer, hope, and the word of God to stand with their neighbors. We'll be right back.
If you want to be an attorney with a passion for serving people and for excellence, Regent University needs to be high on your list.
Regent's award-winning law school doesn't just create lawyers. We create leaders, judges, prosecutors and defense lawyers, civil litigators, and leaders in government. Ready to become a purpose-driven, practice-ready lawyer? To start your rewarding career, complete the online application, submit your transcripts, and take the law school admissions test by July.
Nutrition, exercise, essential oils, weight loss, and more. It's Healthy Living with Lori Johnson.
Talk about what's in this.
Join CBN health reporter Lori Johnson to get the latest information from today's top health experts.
This is fantastic.
Find out what you need to know to live a healthier life. Watch Healthy Living, Tuesday night at 9:30.
Woohoo! Hi, Superbook fans. Here's something else you'll love. It's the new Superbook Bible app. It's packed with games, activities, and Superbook episodes that you can watch for free. Oh, no! There's trivia, a fun daily devotional, and answers to your Bible questions. Plus, an easy-to-understand Bible the whole family will enjoy. You can even create your own Superbook character. Ta-da! Whoa!
The Millsburg Falls man coming.
Sorry, pardon me. Sorry, excuse me. Ouch!
Are you getting this?
Earn super points to win daily prizes, too. And so much more! Time to get back to my adventures. See you soon. It's the new Superbook Bible app. Free downloads on iTunes, Google Play, and Amazon.
Finally tonight, Christian artists in Nashville are encouraging their neighbors to keep the faith in the face of the deadly tornadoes there.
Yeah, the goal was to give residents hope and encouragement in this very challenging time. World-renowned worship leader Carrie Job wrote on Instagram, "My city, so devastated, praying for all who lost loved ones and homes. We are with you."
And contemporary Christian artist Stephen Curtis Chapman tweeting, lifting up many prayers for our Nashville community, along with the Psalm 34:18, "The Lord is near to the brokenhearted and saves the crushed in spirit."
Very pertinent here. And former daytime talk show host Kathy Lee Gifford recorded this message of encouragement from her Nashville home.
I just know from life's experiences that even in the darkest times, the light of the Lord is shining. And if you can hold on to that, if you can look to the light and know that he sees you and he loves you and he will get you through this.
All you need is the faith of a mustard seed. We'll see you back here tomorrow night.